Welcome to the 32nd episode of Impact Media Presents WisePause Lifestyle. I'm Kelly Redmond, your host and Executive Director of Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm excited to have Denise Pines join us. Hi, Denise.
Hello.
Denise is the founder of WisePause Lifestyle, and she's the president of the California Medical Board. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for being a donor and supporter of Impact Media. I so appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. No, I love the work that you've been doing. You've been doing it for a while. You've stayed steadfast, and that's what we have to do. You know, we can't give up even when the times are hard.
Absolutely. And it's so important that we support each other,
yes,
especially
absolutely.
as sisters. And so when I found out that you were having WisePause last year, I was so excited. And I rearranged my whole plans that weekend so that I could attend. And I tell you, it was impactful in ways I couldn't imagine for what I was going through at this particular stage in my life.
Right.
So I got so much information and resources and access to different products and tips that really did help change the trajectory of my life and experience, as a 50.
I'm so happy.
Yes. So I
happy.
had to share. I told you then, and I'm keeping my commitment that I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure everybody knows about it. Whether it was in LA, I told you Chicago, Atlanta. So now we're doing all of that and more. And I really would love for you to start off by telling us, why you do this work. How did you come to this concept of doing WisePause, and kind of what has been your path to get here?
It's kind of been an interesting path. So I'll talk about what WisePause is. So just generally, It's a pro-aging health and education platform designed to empower and connect women with trusted but critical information to provide them a supportive community and to give them like actual actionable resources as they go through their midlife journey, right? From midlife to beyond. And so I usually sort of say that I'm kind of talking to women who are around 35 to about 65 is sort of that sweet spot of where problems start to happen. It's so funny. I'm always like, before I turned 50, my 50-year-old friends are like, well, girl, wait till you turn 50. It's all of this going to start happening.
Right.
Year-old friends are like, girl, wait till you turn 60. This is going to happen. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Right. And so I recognize that as I even talk to young women, and I talk to them in a specific kind of way. But, this sort of journey came about for me, honestly, simply because I got a hot flash. And I remember telling my doctor about it, and he had this particular tea, and he gave it to me. I took it, and it really helped with the hot flashes. I mean, I was having what they call severe hot flashes, which is when you have them every hour. So and then called him back and said, what is this? And he says, what it was and why it actually worked, right? So what was it getting to the root cause? Because I'm always about like root cause of solving health issues. And so, fast forward, honestly, we went to Taiwan, where the tea is from, met with all the tea experts, met with all these organic farmers, and packaged this tea up. And we sell it. It's simply called Hot Flash Tea. People can go
bought some. Yes, I did. That did help.
Go to hotflashtea.com. And it really is amazing. And it's not amazing because it's my thing. It's amazing because it actually does work for women if they can and are struggling. So what I just found is that, as I got into this age range, is that women start to become invisible to society, right? Women, we already struggle as it is, but when we get older, we really become rendered like invisible, non-relevant, not important. And yet we are, socially, we're well connected. economically we have more money and politically we have more power, and yet we are considered to be discarded, right?
Yes.
And so that really kept me on this journey. And starting WisePause came out of the fact that I really started, tea botanics and had the hot flash tea. And so women were talking to me and sharing with me their challenges. And I thought, oh my God, there's so many women who just have no idea what's happening to their bodies, and no one is helping them. Their doctors, if they go to them, will either do one or two things: tell them to wait it out. I mean, really wait it out. Right. Or two, they'll start putting them on, they'll call it hormone deficiency, and they'll put them on an estrogen drug. Typically they'll start off with a low one, and then work, maybe work up. But that's the approach in healthcare. So I said, I'm going to put something together that's going to help women with all the nuts and bolts of what's happening with their body, right? First, getting them to understand what is actually happening, right? So, what are the hormones contributing to this? But then also, what are other things that actually start to come into our lives because we actually have gotten older and we've been on the planet for a length of time, that things just start happening to you, because things happen to men too, right?
Yes.
When they get hot flashes, it's referred to as work sweat, right? But for women, it's hot flashes. So they're not separated from this either. And I love men who, on the side, they'll say, so D, can you think that tea might work for me? And I'll tell them no, because we have supportive herbs that are for women's bodies, but we are eventually going to come out with something that's going to support men. I won't be calling it hot flash. Yeah, because men have they too. I mean, and you've seen the guy that's always sweating, the guy that wears short sleeves in the winter time, the guy that never has a coat on, the guy that has flip floppies on all the time. That guy is persistently hot.
Yes. So it's interesting that you mentioned that in the guys, because as you talked about the target, I was wondering, I saw guys at the conference last year, not many, but would you say that there's a place for guys at WisePause in the virtual event?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just understanding what's happening to their wives or their girlfriends, their mothers or their sisters or their friends. I have a lot of guys who want to help their female friends. So yeah, I mean, just them understanding will help. They will actually be able to understand them more and to be able to support them, because they may hear something and say, hey, I was on this thing, I was at this conference online and they talked about this. Maybe, have you tried that? So yes, for men, this is a way they can be kind of in the closet. At an event where a bunch of women is a little harder for men to do, but something like this where they can look at a topic and decide, which one of these makes sense that they want to know. For example, we're going to have a sex therapist and a Tantra certified expert talk. One of the things that happens sometimes to women is their libido might go low. So we have someone talking about what you can do, or that women's vaginas start to thin. And when they thin, they start to dry. And so a woman finds herself having pain with sex. Well, that impacts the man, right? If all of a sudden your sex life is impacted, it's not that she doesn't want to have sex with you, but it is very painful. So you may hear something that you can go back and say, honey, let's talk about this a little bit more. Is this what's happening to you? Hey, I heard some information that might be helpful at this WisePause thing that I joined.
And they can encourage them to attend too, if they hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about it. I think, it's important for women to understand kind of what happens to their bodies so they can find out what they can do about it, as opposed to believing their bodies are broken. I always talk about what's right with women's body and not what's wrong with women's bodies. Our bodies are perfectly fine, right? This phase that we go through is absolutely normal. Just like when we go through puberty, that's absolutely normal. this is normal. Every single woman in the world is going to go through menopause, period, end of story. And so I always say that this impacts everybody, because again, if you're in a relationship, whatever that may be, that's going to impact the person that you're with. I mean, I hear so many funny stories. Like a friend of mine told me one time how her husband woke up and he was like, where is she? Like she hadn't gotten back in the bed in a particular period of time. And so he went around the house looking for her, and he ended up in the kitchen and saw she had literally stuck her body, bent over and stuck herself inside the refrigerator to cool off. And he was
I knew exactly where you were going.
Right?
Exactly.
This thing was like, oh my God, what has she gone crazy? Right. But you do whatever you need to do to get cool down, and that impacts, your spouse.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about what we can expect to see for the men and the women in terms of the types of topics. I know I was really excited to see kind of the full spectrum dealing with women's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, the whole gamut.
The whole shebang. We cover mind, body, and soul, right?
Yes.
So, a lot of times we have like, lack of a better word, brain fog. Even sometimes I'm really sharp. And then some days I'm like, I can't even remember somebody's name, right? That I know. And I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we talk about kind of what happens, what may have dipped in your body that caused a drainage honestly from your brain at that moment, and what you can do, like, what vitamins you can put back into your system real quick that will take that brain foggy away. We're going to talk about fibroids. Fibroids is
that's
really
a big one. That's a huge one. I hear about it all the time. I'm experiencing, them and have been dealing with it. And because of COVID, finally found someone to do the treatment that I wanted, but now I can't get it because of COVID.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Just talked to a younger friend today who, was confiding that, things are looking very scary, for her as a young woman who wants to have children. And so it's just,
yeah.
So all the things that you talk about are so important.
So we talk about that in one of our in the earlier morning panel discussions. We talk about vitamins. We talk about when you walk into the store and you want to get supplements. What should you be getting? A lot of times, people are just randomly getting stuff or getting something that a friend said. But what is it you really need to get at this point in your life? We have a ton of tutorials. I learned something yesterday. We did our last recording yesterday, and I learned something that we need to do with our panties. Now, ladies, you got to listen. You got to go to WisePause. You got to go to WisePause.com. www.
I say this is the grown woman conference. Like you all put your big girl panties on, because we got to
put your big girl panties on. And I was just like, what? I've been doing this now for a while, so I've heard a lot. But I mean, I tell you, I'm always hearing something new, and I had never heard this before. We have a woman who talks about, what we can't stand, which is this belly fat, right? This waistline, and how to reduce it. So we have a lady who's an expert on understanding what happens to women's bodies and why all of a sudden our weight starts going to our waist. I'm going to do a 1-minute movement that's from the ancestors that my trainer taught me, Coach E. He taught me how a few of us how to do this. And so I'm going to show everybody how to do it. It's just 1 minute, speeds up your metabolism, gives you crazy, amazing energy. And that will start your body to reignite and start burning some extra, fat that tends to accumulate during this time. I mean, we just have so many. We did we did a Ask the Doctor. So a lot of the people who registered, I just threw a ton of questions at this doctor, and all these questions. And I even asked her about the question about wine, drinking that wine at night. So she talked talks about that and what goes on, and she doesn't say you can't drink the wine, but she gives you a sense of how to drink the wine.
Great. So earlier you told me about this study that you've been working on, and part of the reason that you do this is to educate around some of the disparities and how to overcome disparities as it affects Black women. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I also want to say, we are having this preliminary conversation today, but I am very excited that we're going to continue the conversation after your conference,
Okay.
and have you and maybe some of your presenters come back and go deeper into some of the tips, because we don't want to have any spoiler alerts before the conference this Saturday.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about kind of the report and some of the stats you were sharing with me about the difference in care and treatment as it relates to, Black women and others. And then we'll start talking a little bit about how people can get registered, because we want them to get registered, and we'll share when we're coming back to talk more.
Okay. So I co-authored a report called Fem Aging 2020 Health Tech. And I wanted to look at a number of different things. One, how is the health and the tech industry providing innovations and solutions for women who are between the ages of 40 to 65? And how were women seeing themselves as they, turned 40 to 65? And what we found was that 55% of the women were concerned about being healthy and independent and active as they get older. And Black women were 60% more worried about those health concerns. So I did a book, I published a book a long time ago called Health First. It was basically a Black woman's health encyclopedia, where we literally looked at the entire life cycle of a Black woman. So from child to teenager to 20s and all the way up to, very old age, and everything that sort of happens in between there with our bodies. And it was so weird. It's like I knew this statistic, but when I read it in association with our book, it just became like the thing that really got me going on all this health for Black women. And that was that Black women are the sickest women in our country. Sickest on every single indicator, every single
Not
one.
a surprise, but.
And so, my goal in this time that I have left on planet Earth is to get the information that we need to change those outcomes. So whether it's the book that we did, whether it's WisePause to help with women as we get older, I'm doing a documentary on Black maternal health. I want to look at how do we have better outcomes with our Black mothers to deliver these babies that stay alive, and that they stay alive with their babies. So I'm doing everything that I can, within my power. I always tell people I'm not trying to change the world, but I'm trying to change right where I'm at, right? So I do what I right where I'm at. But with Fem Aging, so we noticed there was a menopause gap in healthcare. So 60% of women who are seeking treatment for menopause, only 8% of those women are getting treatment. And when it came to Black women, only 5%. So it tells you, what that tells me is how the healthcare industry is failing women across the board as they get older and not having any solutions for them or any answers. But also that Black women, again, are disproportionate in that lack of treatment. So there's so much more, I can get into the whole, like when we talk later about, what technology, we found 70 companies around the world that do have tech innovations for women 40 plus. And so when I talk about Fem Aging technologies, I'm talking about nutraceuticals, I'm talking about clothing, I'm talking about devices, software, I'm talking about a span of different things, because nutraceuticals have innovations in them, and clothing, like we found a company that make clothes out of NASA technology fibers that have a cooling factor to them. So it was great putting this report together. It's 72 pages. We released it about 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
I'm going around virtually around the country talking to venture capitalists and bringing this moment of what's happening to their attention.
So will you be discussing the report at WisePause?
No, we're not going to talk about it. That's too heavy.
Okay. Okay. Well, so tell us this. What is the call to action around the report?
Oh, the call to action is that we need to incentivize venture capitalists to invest in women 40 plus and technologies 40 plus, to get companies, whether they're startup or existing companies, to start looking at solutions and making solutions for women 40 plus, and to also know that there are when you're doing this, is to look at what women want. So we also reveal in this report what women want, not what you think they want, right? Because that's how technology works. Technology comes first before they find out what the target is that they're trying to actually impact.
Will there be any opportunities for viewers to engage in, a petition or some type of campaign around, soliciting, companies to be responsive to specific requests that, we need? Is that something you see as a potential opportunity?
No, I mean, something down the road that I will be doing, I will definitely come out with a campaign around it. And what it is that one of the reasons why women end up suffering and why we have that menopause gap, that data I told you, that 60% of women are seeking treatment, but only 8% of them are getting treatment, doesn't mean that there's not treatment available. It just means that the healthcare industry doesn't know how to service women, or are, ignoring them, or, relegating their stuff to their imagination. It's not really true, that kind of craziness. So one of the things that I'm embarking upon is I'm looking to get curriculum on midlife women's health in medical schools, where every student has to go through X amount of hours of training around the woman's body as she ages. So I love that. So that's something that I'm working on with a number of different people to make happen.
I love that. And I'm grateful for what Senator Kamala Harris did, which was ensuring that we're having resources allocated, the bill around fibroids, so that there's millions of dollars of research going into that. So we definitely need more, policy initiatives like those for women's health. So thank you so much, Denise, for all that you do for women's health and health in general, because as the president of the Medical Board of California, you are, responsible for health for all. So, but we know you have a particular interest in women. Tell us how we can register for WisePause Lifestyle this Saturday, how our viewers can follow you, support the work that you're doing, and we'll make sure everyone mark your calendars now. On Wednesday, September 23rd, 2 weeks from today, same time, 4:30, Denise will be back. I believe she's going to bring some friends, and we're going to go a little deeper and share more of the highlights of what was shared at the WisePause Lifestyle virtual event that's coming up this Saturday, and dig a little deeper. But we did want you to have this information as soon as possible, so you don't miss this Saturday. If you
don't miss it. Don't miss it.
So tell us, Denise.
So go to wisepause.com. That's WisePause.com. And you can register at Facebook at WisePause, or Instagram, #WisePause, Twitter, WisePause. everywhere. It's free. I don't think we even said that. So it's free for 24 hours. If you want it longer, there's some price points associated with, being able to look at it over a period of time if you want to do that. But all the information, the whole day, all the tutorials, which is really exciting. Everything from talking about incontinence, like that's another uncomfortable thing. I mean,
yes.
I have friends who, like, when they laugh, they tinkle on themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that just happened, but they do, and they have to leave the party, wherever they're at. When I say leave the party, whatever has happened, they gotta, they've got to leave. And so, and that can happen to actually a young woman. Sometimes that can be an issue around having, if you've had a couple of kids. So that's just not an older woman's thing. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about, honestly, isn't really older women's stuff. It's really women's, women's health. It just happens
that all at different times, right?
Oh yeah,
everyone's body's different, and it can happen to us earlier or later.
Exactly. Well, now they're seeing menopause as early as there are cases between 23 and 26 years old. Now, with young women who get menopause that early, they're able to fix it because their bodies are still young, their hormones are still young. But yes, that's what's happening now. That's the kind of society that we live in, because we live in a different environmental society, right? We always go like, oh, the climate has changed. Well, it's more, lots of things have changed. We have more products we're putting on our bodies, on our hair, air fresheners, scented candles, all of the electronics. Like right now, I'm on my laptop, which is in front of my desktop. I got my cell phone to the right of me. So all of this is also disruptive to our, our human hormonal structure. So all these things are having an impact on our bodies, and we need to know that so we can figure out the ways that we can have moments where we don't have as much of this, compromising us continuously. Like if you're in a continuous compromised environment, you're going to have lots of health problems, lots and lots of health. And I think that's part of the reason I think that we're seeing the impact of COVID, much more significant on people of color.
Yes.
Because it's where we live, so the kind of access to high quality food that we don't have, a lot of the environmental toxins. We live near those things, like factories, bad runoff water, areas where there's not a lot of trees, where there's putting back oxygen, all of these things all impact our health.
Absolutely. So as everyone can see, just within Denise, there is such a wealth of information around a number of topics. Imagine this times 20 plus presenters and medical experts, like you said, mind, body, soul, every aspect. So register today. Do not delay for WisePause Lifestyle. Denise, thank you so much for coming today. I look forward to our next conversation in a few weeks, going a little deeper, sharing more tips and next steps for women and men who love and support, the women in their lives. So thank you so much. I wish you all the best on Saturday. I will be there, and whether that day and beyond, I'm going to do the special download to have access to it for a lot longer. And I thank you so much for all that you do and how you make an impact, not just in your area, because it's a global conference now, so you are changing the world.
Oh yeah,
thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me on. Okay,
absolutely.
Bye-bye.
And thank you everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.